What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We've got another YouTube video here for you today. Um, I don't necessarily think I really needed to record one for this lesson because it's very similar to yesterday's lesson that you did over compound subjects, but you know, we just decided to record a video over here to help you guys out just in case you needed some assistance. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. As you can see, the title of this document is Compound Verbs. We'll put a little title in there. Um, Compound verbs very similar to compound subjects. So if you felt pretty strongly about your ability to identify a compound subject, compound verbs should be a breeze to you. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Now that we have a good grasp of compound subjects, let's take a look at compound verbs. A compound verb consists of two or more verbs that are joined by a conjunction and that have the same subject. And I put in parentheses here, does this look familiar? And it should, because this is exactly the same thing as compound subjects. Compound subjects are linked by a conjunction and they share a similar verb. But in this case, we're looking at compound verbs. So those are split with conjunctions and they share a same subject. So it's the exact same thing, it's just the roles are reversed now. So kind of like yesterday, we have some common conjunctions used to link these compound verbs together. And the most common ones used are and, or, and but. So let's take a look at some examples down here. Number one, the rain has fallen for days and is still falling. You may notice that in this case we have verb phrases and not just singular verbs. We know what verb phrases are. We did that 2 days ago on Monday, I believe. So just keep that in mind. You have to pay attention to your helping verbs and make sure that you get those helping verbs in there too, because compound verbs can include verb phrases. So in this example, we've got a verb phrase here with has fallen. Then over here we have is still falling. Be careful because sometimes these helping verbs are not directly attached to the verb. And in this case, we have still functioning as an adverb that is separating these two parts of a verb phrase. So just be careful with that. We'll look at some examples on your homework here in a minute. Number two, the team played well but lost the game anyway. So we have played and lost. They are separated with the conjunction but, and they are sharing the same subject and team. So the team did two things. They played and they also lost. So since they did those two things, they're linked with a conjunction shared by the same subject. We have a compound verb. Then finally, number three, we have another verb phrase here. Chris will mop the floor or wash the dishes. So he will mop or wash. And so those two things are a compound verb sharing the subject Chris, and they are linked with the conjunction or. So there's one more thing that I have to tell you before we move on to homework. A sentence can have a compound subject and a compound verb. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. They can both be in the same thing at the same time. So we'll look at an example of what that might look like. You may notice that that both subjects carry out the action of both verbs in the following example. So, we have that compound subject, we have the compound verb. The compound subject, both of those things have to carry out both of those actions in the sentence. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. And this one right here, a few vegetables and many flowers sprouted and grew in the rich soil. So we have vegetables as well as flowers. That's our compound subject. And both of those two things are performing both of these actions. They both sprouted and they both grew. And so in this case, we've got our little color coding here, vegetables and flowers are our subject, and then sprouted and grew is our compound verb. So just keep in mind, you can have a compound subject with your compound verb, but you don't have to. So let's look at your homework. Pretty similar to what you guys have done in the past. Type each compound verb or verb phrase in the blanks below each sentence. Let's get that off the screen so I can see. All you have to do is identify it and type it in the blank below. So what you would do is find both actions performed by the subject of your sentence and then just type them below. Let's do number one together. Children in ancient Egypt played and enjoyed toys. So we're going to type our first one, then we're going to type our second one, and then we are going to move on to the next one. So that's how you do the homework. If you need some help, be sure to email me.